Virgo, the secret to winning a Virgo's heart they don't want you to know. There's one thing people do when they like a Virgo. They try to impress them. They arrive on time, speak the most carefully chosen words they can, behave like the most organized and reliable version of themselves they can be, and they get confused when it doesn't work, when he remains distant, when you feel like you're on the outside of something you can't even properly name. You did everything right. He's there, but he's not close. What if the problem wasn't what you're doing, but the entire logic you're using? Because winning over a Virgo doesn't work like winning over anyone else. Not because they're capriciously difficult or because they like to test people like a game, but because they operate within a system so precise, so silent, so invisible to outsiders, that most people never discover what's really going on. And they keep trying the wrong key in the wrong lock, wondering why the door won't open. There's something they definitely don't want you to know, not because it's a secret kept maliciously, but because they themselves find it difficult to put into words, because it works on such an automatic level, so integrated into their way of being, that naming it would be like asking someone to describe how they breathe. Imagine a seismograph, that instrument that remains still, quiet, seemingly inactive, and records every vibration of the ground. Not the big ones, the visible ones, the ones everyone notices. The imperceptible ones, the ones that happen before any visible tremor, before any external sign. A Virgo works like that with the people who enter their life. They're not evaluating what you say. They're measuring the quality of what you vibrate when no one is paying attention. When the bill arrives and you hesitate for a second longer. When someone asks an uncomfortable question and you change the subject without realizing you've changed it. When you keep your promise without remembering they were watching. Most people never realize they're being read on this level. Because Virgo doesn't ask direct questions, doesn't confront, doesn't test in an obvious way. She simply observes and files it away and compares it to patterns you'll never know because they're all inside her, built up over years of experiences she's silently processed. You may have come here expecting a practical list, 3 steps, 5 attitudes, what to do and what to avoid. And there is some of that in what follows, but not in the way you expect. Because before any behavior, before any strategy, you need to understand what a Virgo is really doing when they seem to be just looking at you. And that starts in a place no one usually mentions: the origin of the filter. Virgos weren't born distrustful. No Virgo is born closed off. What happened, and this is almost universal among them, is that at some point, sooner or later, she bet on something beautiful that lacked inner structure. A person who seemed incredible in the visible details, but who crumbled when tested by the real weight of life. A connection that seemed deep, but was, in fact, only well constructed on the surface. And Virgo learned. The way she learns everything. Processing, comparing, filing. Building, from there, an internal laboratory. A space with bulletproof glass not to isolate the world, but to ensure that the next experiment is not contaminated by variables she cannot control. This isn't coldness, it's the most serious form of care she knows. And this is where most people go wrong. They see the glass and try to break it with intensity, with declarations that are too grand for the moment, with gestures that should communicate how much they matter. And Virgo observes all of this and registers a single word: noise. Because what she's measuring isn't volume, it's consistency. It's what happens in moments when impressing wouldn't be necessary. Do you know what she's checking on you right now? It was while searching for answers to this question that I found this digital book. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose. When you're trying to truly understand a Virgo, not learn tricks, but really understand, there comes a point when you realize the issue isn't just the other person. It's what you still don't understand about how Virgos work on the inside. And more than that, what you still don't understand about what you yourself carry when you get close to someone like that. This book explores the inner architecture of the signs, what each sign truly seeks, what closes them off, what opens them up, and why. For Virgo specifically, it reveals something that changes how you act, not what to do, but who to be. And this difference, when you truly understand it, not only improves a relationship, it shifts the entire axis of how you interact with people of substance. You are currently at a specific point in your life, still processing, with the active discomfort of realizing that you may have been operating on the wrong logic. This discomfort is a sign that you are ready for the next level. Not tomorrow, now, while this layer is still open within you. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And before we continue, tell me in the comments, what was a time when a Virgo you know seemed more closed off towards you, without any apparent explanation? I want to understand what you experienced. There's one thing Virgo never asks for directly. She won't sit in front of you and say, I need you to be consistent. I need what you do when you're alone to match what you show when you're with me. She won't formulate that request. But that's exactly what she's expecting and checking for every time you disappear for a while without explanation after giving her so much attention. Every time you promise something small and don't deliver, not because you're bad, but because you forgot in the rush. And to her, that's not carelessness, it's a gift. Every time you change your tone depending on who's in the room. Think of an architect. Not the kind who looks at the project and sees the finish, the facade, the aesthetics of what will be delivered. The kind who takes the blueprint and goes straight to the foundations. Who asks about the soil, about the depth of the piles, about what supports everything beneath what appears. That's how Virgo evaluates people. Not by what you present, by what you sustain when the weight increases, when circumstances aren't cooperating. When it would be much easier to slip a little and nobody would notice. She understands, and the most curious thing is that she does all this silently, without you realizing you're being measured, sometimes without her even consciously realizing it, because this process in Virgo is so automatic, so integrated into her way of processing the world, that she doesn't choose to do it in the morning and stop at night. It simply happens. It's the background against which everything else unfolds. What does this mean for someone trying to get closer? It means that grand gestures rarely reach their intended audience. The grand gesture on Friday doesn't compensate for the inconsistency from Monday to Thursday. Because Virgo isn't scoring points for what you did in special moments. They're measuring the quality of the pattern you repeat in moments that don't seem special. In moments where neither of you is trying to impress, in moments that seem too small to matter, and which precisely for that reason are the ones that matter most. And now comes the paradox that lies at the heart of everything you need to understand about a Virgo. Virgo wants to connect deeply, with an intensity that most people never imagine when looking at her from the outside, seeing her composure, her practicality, her apparent self-sufficiency. She is not cold by nature, she is cold out of precaution. And inside, quiet and real, there is a desire to find someone who sees beyond the filter, who doesn't give up at the first layer of distance, who understands that silence is not rejection. It's a test she doesn't always know she's applying. But here's the paradox that hurts her more often than anything external. The same system she built to protect herself also keeps people out longer than she'd like. It's like a safe programmed with such a complex combination that even the owner sometimes finds it difficult to open quickly. She knows this, and she suffers from it in a way she rarely admits, because admitting it would be, for Virgo, a form of vulnerability that the filter hasn't yet learned how to process with complete safety. And when does it finally open? When a Virgo opens up, it's not dramatic. There's no announcement, no official opening statement. It's almost imperceptible if you don't know what to look for. A slightly more personal comment than usual. something she didn't need to say but did, a shared silence without any discomfort, without the need to fill the space. A message sent outside of usual hours about something small without strategic purpose, just because she thought of it and sent it. These are the signs, discreet like everything Virgo does when it's real, and it is precisely at this moment, in this space she's opening up, that most people make the mistake that closes everything back down. Because she is not asking you to dance with joy. She is not asking you to mark the moment as special. She's still testing in a new way. What do you do with this space she is creating? Do you fill it with excessive enthusiasm? Do you take advantage of it to put more pressure on? Or do you receive it with the same calm and consistency that you have brought to this point? What this book illuminates in a way I didn't expect, the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose, is precisely this layer. Not just how to enter the world of Virgo, but how to remain in it without triggering the defense mechanisms that it can't always consciously switch off. This is the part that most approaches completely ignore. If you're at a point where the connection with a Virgo seems to be starting to form, but is still fragile, unstable, full of advances and setbacks that you don't understand, this material was made for that specific moment. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. Now comes the mistake, the one that shuts everything down silently, without warning, without the chance to correct it at the right time. Virgo doesn't confront when something bothers them. Not most of the time, not in the early stages of a connection. They process it internally. They place the event alongside the pattern they've built about you. And they decide, almost always alone, almost always without you knowing the decision is being made, whether what happened was a variable or a constant. On variable she forgives, because Virgo deeply understands that people have bad days, that no one can maintain their best version all the time, that mistakes are part of being a real human being. She knows this better than anyone because she demands a precision from herself that she can never fully achieve. And she has learned to live with this tension between the ideal and the possible. But a constant is not forgiven. It's archived, and what changes isn't the relationship, which may continue to function on the surface, but the position you occupy within it. You go from a candidate for a standard to a managed variable, and that change, once made, is rarely reversed. The problem is that you probably won't know when you've crossed that line, because Virgo won't tell you. She may even remain present, polite and functional, but something will have locked up inside, an alarm that doesn't sound, that simply closes the door from the inside without any sound. So what are the constants that activate this mechanism? Inconsistency between what you say and what you do, not just once, but as a pattern. Emotional intensity that is disproportionate to the moment and sounds like a performance, not a true feeling. Pressure, direct or indirect, for her to open up before her internal process is ready. And a detail that few notice, answers that always come across as too perfect, always in the right tone, always exactly what the situation demands. Because Virgo knows how much it costs to be truly precise, knows that it requires work, self-criticism, constant revision. So when someone seems precise without visible effort, the seismograph registers, this is not right. This is being constructed. What if you've already triggered this mechanism without realizing it? Perhaps there's still time to change the pattern, but not with more strategy, with something that strategy cannot replace. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose pays specific attention to this point. What to do when the connection with a Virgo seems to have stalled for reasons you can't clearly identify. What's happening within their reading system, and what within you might need genuine work, not behavioral adjustment, real work. Because Virgo detects the difference, always, between those who changed because they understood and those who changed because they learned that change was strategically necessary. And the second option not only doesn't work, it confirms exactly what she suspected. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. So what really opens up a Virgo? What makes the filter loosen? Not because they were deceived, but because they finally found something that passed the screening. It's not a technique. It's not a calculated sequence of behaviors designed to appear as he wants to see. Because if there's one thing Virgo detects from afar, with the precision of someone who has spent years calibrating this instrument, it's calculation. The attempt to meet an imagined expectation, the performance of authenticity, which is the most visible type of contradiction for those who analyze deep patterns. What opens up Virgo is both simpler and much more difficult at the same time. It's about being real when it would be easier and more impressive to perform. It's about saying, "I don't know," when the right answer would be more favorable. It's about keeping the small promise, the time, the detail, the word you said you'd remember, without needing her to know you did, without mentioning it, without expecting recognition, because Virgo always knows. She registers everything, especially what you're not showing. It's the ability to be uncomfortable with honesty without retreating to the safety zone of half-truths. It's not needing validation from others about what you feel before continuing to feel it. It's a consistency so internalized that it doesn't depend on an audience. It happens the same way when you're being observed and when you believe you're not. Imagine two musical instruments tuned to the same frequency. When one vibrates, the other responds. Not because it was played directly, but because it was at the right frequency, and resonance is inevitable. You can't convince a Virgo of anything with words. You vibrate at a frequency they recognize, or don't recognize, and that frequency isn't built in weeks of good behavior. It's built over years of choosing to be honest when it would be more convenient to be strategic, of choosing to be real when performing would be safer. Anyone who reaches this point with a Virgo realizes something unexpected. The connection that forms is unlike any other they've ever experienced. Because it wasn't built on impressions, it was built on real verification. On having passed through the filter, not because they knew how to deceive it, but because there was something genuine there. And the filter recognized it. Do you have that frequency? Or are you still trying to achieve it? That's the question this book helps you answer with true honesty. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose doesn't promise you'll win over any specific Virgo. It promises something worth more than that you'll understand clearly what within you still functions on the surface, and what is already a true structure. This understanding, regardless of what happens in the relationship, changes how you relate to people of depth, not just Virgos. With anyone who is worthwhile. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. There's one last thing that needs to be said about what happens when you truly enter the world of a Virgo. Those who truly get involved, not just circling the surface, hoping something will change, don't come out the same. It's not just about the relationship itself. It's about what the relationship demands of you to exist. Because Virgo doesn't accept anything less than the best you have to offer. Not because they're demanding out of vanity, not because they need to feel superior, but because they've spent their whole lives trying to be the most honest, most accurate, most real version of themselves. And they don't know how to relate in any other way than with someone who is on the same path, even if at different stages. Being close to a true Virgo is like going through the process of a forge, not to be destroyed, but to reveal what was already there before, beneath everything that wasn't essential. The impurity is removed. What wasn't genuine doesn't withstand the heat. What remains is cleaner, clearer, more true than what went in. And the curious thing is that when you get there, you realize that the goal was never to conquer, it was to be seen. By someone who has the ability to see everything, who uses this talent not to judge, but to verify, to discern, to find what is real within what the world offers, and who, even seeing everything, chose to stay. This is what Virgo offers to those who have what she is looking for. And it is perhaps the rarest and most valuable thing that exists, a connection between two people,